Lewis in the Black Horse Pub. Well, good morning and welcome back again. It is a beautiful day outside, but it is cold. It is cold. It's still -2. And there is a slight breeze, which means that it'll probably feel colder than -2. It's one of those days where all seems to be at peace with the world. The headlines in the papers this morning are threefold. One, that both the Princess of Wales and the King have undergone fairly major surgery. At least the Princess of Wales has done, and it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to recuperate. The King is going in next week. He's apparently got an enlarged prostate. The prostate problem it seems to affect a lot of men, far more than it used to. I don't know why. Perhaps it's because we're more aware, or perhaps it's because of a change of lifestyle. And the next headline, of course, is that Rishi Sunak saw off his challenges, his revolution last night, and the Rwanda legislation has been passed. So now the backroom boys, the civil servants in Whitehall, will start preparing to put illegal immigrants aboard 747s and send them off to Rwanda. It's not all plain sailing, because the European Court of Human Rights will get involved and try to stop it. Sunak has said he doesn't care. He's going to go ahead with it anyway, no matter what they say. So another clash. It'd be interesting to see how he comes out of this. Perhaps he's turning out to be stronger than we thought. And the third headline is tucked away, really, not tucked away. It's a big, bold headline in the Financial Times, which is warning that inflation is back on the increase, that interest rates will remain high, and that the economy is fragile, and that there was a major sell-off of stocks and bonds overnight. Is this triggered by the war or the conflict in the Middle East? Difficult to say. You can't ascribe anything until a little later when there's an analysis made. But it looks as if there is real fear that conflict may trigger a full-scale war, and that always shakes up stock exchanges around the world. And it was around the world that the sell-off took place, not just here. So we really not in the best position this morning on any front. Now, I think that it's at times like this that we need to be a bit calm. And I was talking to a lady the other day who had tasted Mirador for the first time, and she said, "Yeah, the most remarkable thing is that you cover such a wide range of topics. And we do. For a small organization, we punch well above our weight and we cover all sorts of things, and with experts too, not with yes and by God. Once in a while, we did something that is out of the ordinary. And a little while ago, we actually staged an online concert with three very professional singers. Now, we are local but not parochial. And our concert included a group from New Haven, who represent the truly local, Dandelion Charm, very, very, who are going from strength to strength long after this this concert was held. And then we went to Armenia because we don't like to just be parochial. And by the same token, there is a relationship between this singer and Mirador and Lewis. And she's a beautiful singer who has been in the global series of Britain's Got Talent, except that it's something else got talent. But she was up there with the best. And finally, with a choir in St. Michael's Church in Lewis, which is a very, very, very ancient church. It's about let's see, it's 1140 that the church was originally built, and it's where Tom Paine was married, and has a great deal of history. It's where Nicholas Pelham is buried, Sir Nicholas Pelham, who actually is used in those. We didn't have an army in those days, way back in 1300. Each individual fiefdom, lord of the manor, had his own soldiers. And so Nicholas Pelham took his soldiers down to Seaford and during the 100 Years' War, and paid to a French advance. Unfortunately, he wasn't around a little later when the French actually invaded Lewis and took it over for a short period of time. And then is the Paine marriage, but lots and lots of history associated with this church, which is still a working church today. It is what's known as Anglo-Catholic. In other words, although it subscribes to the Church of England, it practices Mass the way it would have been practiced when it was a Roman Catholic church. There was no Church of England. So I thought that we would take the time in working up to John Henty joining us by enjoying a little music. And I'm taking my life in my hands on this because I'm not quite sure how good the recording is. We'll give it a try. And if we have to abandon it, abandon it. And have me again. So let's let's see what we can come up with. Oh dear, the sun is starting to play havoc again. Never mind. It's amazing just how bad it can be. Hey, ooh. And I'm trying to remember where, in fact, this concert is. We'll have a look, and we'll see if we can. No, we're not getting anywhere there. My lack of knowledge of this. This system that these little moments when I have to potter around, but also I'm happy to say that the sun really causes us problems. It's one of the drawbacks of broadcasting out of a pub and not a studio, but nonetheless, it does make it a bit strange. From time to time. Yeah. Believe me, it is a concert. And it is here somewhere. And I'm going to persevere because it was worthwhile, I thought. No. I should pay more attention, actually. I really should. Here we are. Let's try a concert and see where it leads us. It's not a usual thing that we do, but then we do just about a little bit of everything. And it's well worthwhile checking on how we made out.
This is a bit of a departure for Mirador, but we're going to have a half hour of music for this Sunday evening. I'm sitting in St. Michael's Church in the middle of Lewes, actually a street, and it's been the church for nigh on 1,000 years for the parish of Lewes, which is very small. In fact, there are only about 3 of us who actually are on the church roll, the residents of the town. But it was, historically, it is recorded as being 1140, but some historians say it was the castle church. So it was here very shortly after the Normans took over, and some people date it as early as 1080. And there's some merit to that, because the priory, which you'll see in a few minutes as we do some song, the priory was started to build in 1086. So they very swiftly did build churches and priories and so on after the Norman conquest of 1066. Anyway, this is what is lovingly known as a high church. It's Anglo-Catholic. It's a beautiful church. It's an ancient church, and it has a magnificent musical director in Nick Houghton, who inspired me to do this by giving me some music from the Lewes singers, and you'll hear in a little while. But what we're going to do, first of all, is to kick off with Dandelion Charm, a duo out of New Haven, Claire and John Fowler. Magnificent voices. You may have heard them if you've watched any programs on Mirador. Here they are, Claire and John, Dandelion Charm.
It's a tight rope walk on an ice age, honey, and you can play that game, but it won't be funny for long. Oh, for long. She's high, she's a skywalker, doesn't matter, just focus your mind on the wire ahead, it doesn't matter, it's a long way down, long way down. it's wrong. But when she's high, she's a skywalker. Doesn't matter, matter. Just focus your mind on the wire ahead. It doesn't matter. It's a long way down, long way down. What a spectacular performance! Though there will be no net for her, such a spectacular performance. Who's going to claim her throne this time? Oh, Skywalker, this time. Oh, Skywalker.
But when she's high, she's a skywalker. Line on the wire ahead, it doesn't matter. Balancing high above the world tonight.
Skywalker again. Oh, again. Oh.
The next singer you may also have heard, Yeva Surian, who is Armenian. What does that have to do with Lewis? Well, it doesn't really, except that I've travelled extensively in Armenia. It was the first country in the world to embrace Christianity as a state religion, and that goes back to about 600 AD. And they have some magnificent churches. They have their own version of the Vatican, and all so that you can see Ararat as a backdrop. It's quite magnificent, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But the Armenians, particularly Yeva's sister, Astrid, has been very kind to me over the years, and she was the lady that pointed me in the direction of her sister and said she's got a magnificent voice, and I sometimes write some of the words. Do you think you could take a listen? And I did, and I was absolutely bowled over. Now, I've been very irreligious, and I should take my hat off while I'm in church, but let's go to Yeva and listen to her golden voice.
He never bring you down or leave you alone. Trust him all in all, 'cause he's the light. He'll lead your way through darkest of times. He'll never let you go. And he'll be there for you. He'll be there for you. Mm-hmm.
Vroom, vroom. The other day I felt a warmth between myself and Mole and Ratty, the two little characters from Wind in the Willows, as I sat on the banks of the River Ouse and let it drift by. Vroom, vroom. Today I feel more like Toad of Toad Hall, the animal that was always getting himself into trouble because of his excesses. Vroom.
But horsepower is the essence of this episode, because horses played a central part in the history of Lewis. And as might be expected, were often at the centre of violence,
Adding to the history of a bloody town.
Horses, of course, were nothing unique to Britain. Cavalry had been a major part of warfare, and peaceful farming from time to time immemorial. But for Lewis in early times, they were an important part of its economy. The Domesday Book, the first ever audit of England in 1086, records that anyone selling a horse in Lewis should pay to the reeve or estate manager a penny. The buyer also paid a penny. So a horse tax was in place more than 1,000 years ago. And so the horse took centre stage from the earliest of Norman times. I've shown you the tilting grounds where knights on horseback tried to unseat each other. But that was nothing compared to the violence that Lewis races brought to the town.
But I get ahead of myself. Lewis was one of the most famous racecourses in history until 1965.
The fourth oldest in the country, racing began in 1727, although some argue there is evidence it was 26 years before that.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Lewes. It's the final race meeting here at Lewes, Monday, September the 14th, 1964. The ground is firm and the wind is straight across the course. The runners for the first race, the Cookmere Apprentices Handicap, are on their way to the start. Saucy Lad representing the Gold Star. Number 11 is Nimberg. And away they go. They're off and racing, and Buzz made a bright start there and leads in the early stages. And now a little bit of a rise as they race past the mile marker and head towards the right-hand turn, which will bring them into the home straight. Closing stages with less than 100 yards left to travel. It's Buzz pulling clear, and Buzz goes on to win by about 3 lengths to Misty River in second, Saucy Lad back in third, Great Lady, Nimberg Wave, Methane, the Wolf, and St. Kieran.
In that year, after almost 300 years of horse racing, it closed down for good, mainly because it had no electricity, no running water, in fact, no facilities at all. Yet in the late 18th century, it attracted royalty, the big gamblers of the day, and it produced some champion racehorses over the years that brought great races and great feats to an otherwise pretty but blustery track atop the Downs. Considered by racing folk as the greatest racehorse of all time, Eclipse raced there in 1769. The Derby winner of 1793, Waxy, was a Lewis-trained horse, as was Charlottetown in 1906. Great jockeys rode there, such as Lester Piggott and Gordon Richards. And Barry, although it started in 1720 or so, you weren't here then, but you were, as a very young boy, involved in this racecourse.
Yeah, I certainly was, yeah. I was born on race day, 29th of August 1950. My mum's side of the family were all racing people, going back hundreds of years probably, so, you know, my gran used to take us up here.
It's very quiet and serene today, so what was it like on race days up here?
Very, very noisy. Hustle and the bustle of coaches coming up here, cars. I mean, all these places over here were car parks. You had all the horse boxes, the tote men, tic-tac men shouting the odds and everything else. Lots of entertainment going on, you know, and it was very, very busy. A 4-mile race which started right down the bottom of the hill there. The horses used to run right round there as far as you can see, and come back down here to the winning post.
Right.
They used to have 2 winning posts. They used to have a 5 furlong winning post and a 6 furlong winning post. But what they did, they made the 6 furlong winning post another furlong away from the stands, because they both wanted to start them on the straight. Otherwise it was unfair, so they had a straight run.
Right.
In 1914, I think it was 14, they shut that down because they found it was too dangerous for the horses to get up that hill. They used to start them from here, they run them down there, round the loop and back again. And that made 4 miles, but it had to be like the best out of 3 or something.
Right.
So some of them horses run 12 miles just to win a race. They had 10 minutes break, they got back after about 9 or 10 minutes, they'd have a bucket of water, drink and wash down, and back they used to go again. After a while, it just phased out a little bit. It used to be a 3-day meeting in August, and then it got to that it was just going to be a day a year. And it got to the stage where it was just one race, and all the horses in that race were trained in Lewes. And the guy that wrote about it, you know, he said this is probably going to be the last day.
There are many in Lewes who are still resentful that the course was closed. It brought a good deal of cash to the town. Lewes had many racing stables and a thriving racing community numbered as many as 60 establishments. But perversely, it was responsible for cleaning up the sport, despite suffering a bout of violence. The early part of the 20th century saw the rise of vicious gangs around the country. These gangs often fought each other, but to keep cash in their pockets, they targeted racecourses, secretly eased their way into courses,
and then meet up to viciously attack and rob bookies. Racegoers, and even jockeys. They were feared at race meetings throughout Britain. And so it was on a June afternoon in 1936. London villain James Spinks and his gang turned up at Lewes for an attack on bookies. They gathered, some 30 strong, on the edge of the racecourse, ready to pounce. And pounce they did. They attacked and savagely beat a bookie and managed to rob him. But not known to them, 2 CID officers had been posted in the grounds. The 2 detectives alerted their fellow coppers and raced towards the gang. According to some reports, a rival gang got into the act and all hell broke loose. It must have been some sight. Villains scattering in all directions, keystone, and the excited racegoers panicked and dived for cover. But it was the police on this day at Lewes Racecourse who passed the winning post. They managed to nick 16 of the gang, took them to Lewes, where they were sentenced to long prison terms. That put an end to the decades-old practice of course hijacking by these fearless and vicious gangs. A real feather in the cap of the Lewes coppers. Nabbed. Pulling you aside, locals will whisper in your ear that Graham Greene's Brighton Rock was really about Lewes Racecourse. They say the gang fight in his novel was based on the events of Lewes in 1936. To think that Pinky strode this course, what a ghost to have here now.
Right. Sorry if I left you sitting there and my lips flapping. Just occasionally still forget to turn the microphone on. That incident in 1936, more than an incident really, is it ended the power of the gangs, and the police, and really must have been like Keystone cops. They were all over the place, scattering throughout the crowds and so on, but nonetheless nicked. Were taken down to Lewes prison, Lewes police cells, and eventually they were tried in the Crown Court. And the gangs were determined that their power, lucrative way of life, should not be interfered with by something as silly as the law. And they bust in hundreds of supporters who settled outside the court, jeering and threatening and intimidating the jury, the judge, the advocates, the barristers, the witnesses, anybody that they could, to try and get the case thrown out of court. And they failed. And apparently the judge and the lawyers particularly had to undergo great harassment as they left the court each day. And every effort was made by the Peaky Blinder type criminals to get the case thrown out, and persuade the participants that if they convicted, they would have the gangsters to deal with. Well, they had a particularly brave set of people involved in this case, because despite these threats, the gangsters were convicted. They were given long sentences, and they went to prison for full terms. And it broke the back of the gangster activity at the courses throughout the country. And so, once again, history was made in Lewes at the racecourse, which part of it still exists up there. But it's held in as private property now. And the thought, which some people would love to bring to fruition, that racing will return to the Downs, is about as, what do they say, as a good chance as a snowball in hell. Sad though it is. And in some ways, I think that people would think that it was a false economy for the council not to have supported a continuation of racing on the Downs. But it is also said that getting through Lewes on race days was impossible. There were traffic jams, and that sometimes it was a pretty mucky business going down the high street. So while you lose on the swings, you gain on the roundabouts. And undoubtedly, today, with our desire for speed of communication and transport, there would have been constant criticism of the town on those days. So you can still see here and there the areas where some of the stables were located, and there is still a stable, if not two, on the racecourse itself, where they train horses for racing elsewhere. So it's an interesting session or period in the history of Lewes. And particularly, some say it went back, Lewes Racecourse was in existence, which officially is tabulated as somewhere around 1720, was actually extant in the reign of Queen Anne, which was at the end of 1600, the beginning of 1700. It had a long, long and distinguished history as a racecourse. Now, I'm able to sit here in the bow window of the Black Horse and watch the world go by. I watch the postman go and deliver letters and parcels at a couple of the houses opposite. I watch the children going to school. I watch people going to work. Watch people who patently aren't going to work. But it is a joy and a pleasure to watch the world go by for a little while. And that's what we've done this morning, is we have played a little music. We looked at the headlines, which are very pertinent to our way of life. And it's today's headlines. Incidentally, I'm looking across at a Chinese restaurant which is closed, called Yummy Yummy. One time it was a fish and chip shop, and you can't take the fish and chip shop down, sign down. So it's got a fish and chip shop and Yummy Yummy, but it's been closed for several months. But now there is a sign there that says sold. So perhaps we're going to get a Chinese restaurant back again, where we can pop over and have a chow mein or an egg fried rice. Wow, I hadn't noticed that. I think that's only gone up in the next day or two. It's an interesting little community up here at this end of the high street. There is probably the most famous butcher, Richard's, up here. There is a barber. There's a sandwich shop. There are a couple of knick-knack places. There's a pharmacy. It's a pub, of course, the Black Horse. And now I wonder if Yummy Yummy is going to reopen, because it is a thriving little community with plenty of people to take advantage of these amenities. There's even a garage and a prison, of course. Although the only extant business that the prison brings, as far as I'm aware, is when Mick Jagger was held in Lewes prison, and it was a Sunday, and he came in, and he was arrested by surprise, I think. and he hadn't eaten. So he said to the warder, "Is there anywhere I can get a takeout?" And the warder said, "No, not really. It's Sunday. Everything's closed. The only place is the White Hart." "All right," he said, "give me the telephone number of the White Hart." He phoned the White Hart and said, "I want a takeaway." And Cliff Ayres, who owned until a couple of months ago the White Hart, confirms that somewhere in the archives is the menu for Mick Jagger's takeaway from the White Hart to Lewes Jail. You are, but you didn't know that. Anyway, we will hopefully have John Henty here in a short period of time. So until then, what we will do is we will take another little break. So sit back, stand back, and we'll see you in 5 minutes or so, hopefully. Shall we? Yeah. And let's remind you where we're broadcasting from.